Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So, in Raj Yoga, we have to remember we finished the Samadhi Pada, that is the first chapter, and we are now discussing the second chapter, which is known as Sadhana Pada. Why the names are given in this way? We have to try to find out what we discussed in Samadhi Pada. Samadhi Pada means that chapter which deals with different kinds of jnana vrittis or our thinking, cognition. As you all know, we have three faculties of the mind, three or four, you can say. The first faculty is thinking, feeling, willpower or willing, and of course there are instincts which can be thinking, feeling, or emotions, feeling. But the jnana vrittis, the perception that we have, that was dealt with in the Samadhi Pada. That is the first chapter. Yoga, Chitta Vritti, Nirodha. So what is Jnana Vritti? What is Prajna? That is Buddhi Vritti. What is Samyama? That is Pravritti, how actions take place. And what is Chitta Vritti, Nirodha? Nirodha means Sthiti. There are no Vrittis. So all the cognitive Vrittis, how you cognize something, how you perceive the world, all those things were dealt with in the first chapter. Now the second chapter, we are more concerned with the other types of mental modifications, that is instincts. How do our instincts act? In what way? If we are too much attached to our body and the pranas, then we can say that we are instinctive. Animal behavior is instinctive. It does not use, even if it has emotions, it is not so refined. It has a willpower, of course, but it doesn't have the cognition or the rational thinking part of it is very much primitive. Though it has emotions, it has feelings, it has fear, it has all the kleshas. That is why sadhana pada is, you may say, a slightly lower type of effort, is a somewhat lower type, because we are dealing with instincts which make us better than animals. When we control our instincts, we are better than animals. When we control our emotions, we are better human beings. And when we control our willpower, when we use our willpower to do what we want to do and not to do what we don't want to do, that is self-control. That is known as volition. The problem, the entire problem with most of us, we know what is to be done, what is not to be done. But how not to do it, or how to do certain things, because of tamas we may feel lazy, but we know something is good. Getting up early in the morning is good, but how to increase our willpower to make that happen? So that is the volition. So that part, the emotions, how do emotions impact us? Are we highly emotional, and do we go to extremes of behavior because of our uncontrolled emotions? And are we very instinctive like the animals? If we are very cross, we will be instinctive. If we are not controlled our emotions properly, then we become emotional creatures. So emotionally, many things affect us. Simple things also can impact us greatly because of lack of control of emotions, and also volitions, the willpower. So sadhana pada, you have to remember, the second chapter which we are discussing now deals with instincts, emotions, and the willpower. Whereas the first chapter which we discussed, up to samadhi, all the samyama, the chitta vritti, how the vrittis have to be controlled, what are the different types of vrittis, how knowledge comes to a person, how to analyze that knowledge, what is buddhi, and all those things we discussed. So we will not go into that. But in Kriya Yoga or the Sadhana Pada, where there are three important set of topics. We did Kriya Yoga or Karma Yoga, where Swadhyaya, then Ishvara Pranidhana, and all those things we discussed. Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana, and there were Klesha Tanukarana, and there are so many things which we discussed. But the main ideas of this Sadhana Pada, second chapter, which is very important because they cater to the needs of people who are struggling with their instincts, struggling with their emotions, struggling with their willpower. So most of us fall into that category. But Samadhi Path is one, is for those who have already controlled their emotions, already controlled their willpower. They are very self-disciplined, and definitely they have gone beyond the instinct of human beings, the instinctive behavior. They are totally self-controlled. For them, the main problem now is to control their vrittis, which is a finer form of control. So cognition is the last thing. Rational thinking and cognition is the highest form of control. So that is dealt with in Samadhi Pada, because you are on the way, you are already achieved, you are already controlled the lower instincts, the emotions and your willpower, and now you are trying to have a greater control over yourself. Whereas when we come to Sadhana Pada, we, in the second chapter, it is meant for Manda Adhikaris, means who have just started spiritual life and they are yet to come to terms with their emotions, their instincts, in some cases even instincts, because they have just thought of something higher than material life, just eating, drinking and making merry. That is not no longer the ideal. They want yoga, so they want to do sadhana. And what is sadhana pada? It says first control your instincts, raise yourself from the animal level, then control your emotions, don't be an emotional human being, and then you control your willpower through sadhana, through kriya yoga, so that you can do what you really want to do. I want to concentrate, I want to read a book, but my emotions, my distractions, my instincts, they are not allowing me. My willpower is giving way to instinctive behavior. In that case, how to control the emotions, how to control the volition. That is what sadhana pada describes. Now, that sadhana pada, in the kriya yoga part, we discussed what the kleshas are there. Then we also discussed what vasanas are there, and the tendencies, the samskaras, and the karmashaya, which is a combination, which is a receptacle. Karmashaya means, ashaya means support. So all our vasanas are the samskaras, the old experiences, good and bad. They are in the form of samskaras in a container which is known as karmashaya. They determine everything. Now that is the function of kriya yoga, how to reduce the kleshas, do tanukarana of the kleshas. What the kleshas are, we have discussed, now we will not repeat. What vasanas are, we also know. The inherent, the potential desires, they are known as vasanas, which the old samskaras, which when you get certain sufficient impetus, they come to the top and they influence your life, your thinking, your action. Everything is influenced by these vasanas. And where do the vasanas lie? Where do the samskaras lie? They are lying in karmashaya. They together form the karmashaya. Ashaya means the receptacle or the vessel in which all your past karmas and the present karmas, which are going to be samskaras, they will all be in there. So that is that decides your future, that will decide your entire life. Now, apart from this, in sadhana pada, there is another topic which we should know, we will be discussing, that is known as dukkha chaturvyuha. Dukkha chaturvyuha means four types or four aspects of dukkha. Now, why it is given so much importance? Actually, Buddhism discuss with this fourfold sorrow or fourfold misery. Why sorrow can be classified into four parts? It is very important. You know that we have sorrow. Nobody will say with certainty that they are never going to be sorrowful in life. Even if they have nothing to do, still a strange kind of anxiety, worry, sorrow will always be there. So dukkha is a very, very big important aspect of yoga and also Buddhism. Buddhism actually starts spiritual life with dukkha. If there were no dukkha, no sorrow, then nobody would have tried. If everything was pleasure, everything was joy, everything was blissful, then people would not have turned to spirituality. But because there is dukkha, that is a universal truth. That is what Buddha said. Don't bother whether there is God or spirit and all those. Don't go into philosophy. Come directly to the point. Do you feel dukkha in this life? Are you feeling worries? Are you feeling anxieties? Are you feeling some kind of pain, mental as well as physical? And you are somehow not happy. Your worry gives you pain, anxiety gives you pain, uncertain future, uncertain security. All these things are painful. You may not suffer because of things which you have now, but you may suffer for things which might happen in the future. We do not know. Everything may be perfectly okay in our life, but some people have this unnecessary worry and anxiety about some things which may not happen at all in the future. They worry about anything, everything. Suppose I lose money, suppose I lose name and fame, suppose this thing happens, that thing happens, I fall sick. Many of the things are self-created. So that is why Dukkha Chaturvyuha, the four aspects of dukkha are discussed. That is also part of the sadhana path. And then we come to the Ashtanga Yoga, the eightfold path. The yama, moral rules, niyama, the rules of conduct or disciplinary rules. One is yama, that is internal moral rules, and niyama means when you follow those moral rules and enforce a kind of discipline in your life, they are known as niyama. Niyama means the commandments. In fact, yama, niyama are nothing but the commandments of Judaism or Christianity. They say it is the Lord's commandment. Because the same thing in Ashtanga Yoga, they are known as yama and niyama. Patanjali has just changed the name. But there we feel God has given us these commandments, whereas here in Ashtanga Yoga, Patanjali says they are not my own commandments. They are certain rules which if you follow, there will not be dukkha, or dukkha can be conquered. So dukkha chaturvyuha, the fourfold aspects of dukkha. So for Madhyama Adhikaris, for people now, the second chapter deals with people who are beginners in spiritual life or beginners in yoga. So what is Kriya Yoga? What are its effects? We saw. What is Swadhyaya, Tapas, Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana. That is what we see. Kriya Yoga is Tapas. We saw that. What is Swadhyaya? Understanding our own self, trying to know everything about exploring all the human possibilities. Who are we? What is our goal? All these things are Swadhyaya. And Ishvara Pranidhana, surrendering one's will to the Lord so that you unite with the cosmic will, and in the process the cosmic will influences your will and makes it strong. So that is Ishvara Pranidhana, by surrendering to the Lord. Now that is Kriya Yoga. And what is its effect? We saw the sutras. Then what is Tanukarana? What are the 5 kleshas we saw? Again, I will briefly repeat because this is to be understood. Because the kleshas, unless we understand what kleshas are, what are the causes of sorrow? Dukkha Chaturvyuha, which comprises of Heyam, Heya Hetu, Hanam, Hanopaya. Don't be afraid of the terms. I will translate it into English. It is very simple. These are the four corners of sorrow. How sorrows trouble us, how sorrows come to our life, and how to handle them. Heyam, Heya Hetu, Hanam, Hanopaya. These are the 4 aspects of sorrow, how to deal with sorrows. But before that, we have to understand what the kleshas are. As I said, avidya, ignorance, gives rise to ego, asmita, then raga, things that we like, dvesha, things that we don't like, and abhinivesha, fear of the unknown or fear of clinging to life. Now, eradication of kleshas is the next topic, which also we saw how through dhyana, one is pratipaksha bhavana, by creating the opposite klesha, we nullify it. Another method is we borrow from the Samadhi Pada, that is dhyana. It is a kind of meditation creating a vritti which destroys all the kleshas. It burns all the kleshas. It burns all our emotions, burns our tendencies. It is another method, a positive method. And prasava, or the other method of pratipaksha bhavana, is to create the opposite thought and somehow suppress it. Now, what are the relationship? We saw that if there are kleshas, all the actions that we do because of kleshas, if we don't attenuate it, if we don't make it negligible, then the kleshas will cause further karmashaya. They are the root cause of karmashaya. And karmashaya, what does it do? It determines a person's future birth, future experience, bhoga, and longevity. The bhoga, ayu, and future birth, that is bhoga, ayu, and jati. Future birth means, jati means species, which species you will be born into, whether man or a woman, or a spiritual man or a spiritual woman, a rich person, a poor person. All our future births known as jati, ayu, longevity, how long you will live, everything is determined by one's own karmashaya. Nothing is left to chance. We think it is by chance. We fall sick, we do this, we do that. Oh, if we had lived longer. Some people die early, some people are born in prosperous families, some are born in poor families. So all our births are decided by our karmashaya. That is why the kleshas are important to understand, because they are the root cause of karmashaya. So we can choose what shall be our future birth, what shall be our future longevity, and also experiences. Bhoga vasan, bhoga. Jati, ayu means life, and bhoga means our experiences. How many good experiences we'll have, how many dukkha, what kind of dukkha we will face in our next birth. So all that is decided by our karmashaya. So the whole life is Kriya Yoga, is meant for ordinary aspirants to see that we don't add further karma and manage to reduce the effects of the past karmas, the prarabdha karma. Now, according to Patanjali, why is dukkha so important? According to Patanjali, all, for a wise man, for a person who is spiritual, all the experiences are dukkha. All experiences other than samadhi, other than becoming one with the Purusha, where there is total bliss, till then he will have some kind of sorrow. So for a wise man, he is not happy. For an ordinary man, give him a few toys, he will be happy. But if a wise man, he will say, no, I will not waste my time playing with toys. Then what will he do? Then how will he be happy? He is, no doubt, he is having some dukkha that he doesn't have bigger and higher toys to play. Then he finds even those toys are cause of suffering. Then he goes to higher and higher and higher. Then he finds finally the dukkha chaturvyuha, the all aspects of dukkha are revealed to him as they were revealed to Buddha. And then he finds that only in nirvana, only in moksha, and only when you realize the unending bliss within, then only you will be free from dukkha. So what is this quadrangle? Chaturvyuha means quadrangle. There are 4 angles. First is heya, as I told you. That is, heya means it is like a prapya, that which you will get. Whenever you use the word ya ending, dhyaya means that goal which is to be attained. Heya means that which is to be eradicated. What is to be eradicated? Future dukkha. The dukkha has not happened, sorrow has not yet come, but if I am wise, I will prevent. For example, you take precautions, you make certain things fireproof, so that in case there is a fire, it will not burn. That is what is meant by heya. That which is to be eradicated, or something is giving you trouble, you want to eradicate it. It has not caused dukkha as of now, but you know if it persists, it will cause dukkha. That is known as heya. Now we come to the next quadrangle of dukkha. The first thing is trying to eradicate future dukkha, prospective dukkha, which may lead to dukkha. All those things, that is known as heya. Heya hetu means trying to find out what is the cause of future dukkha. First is how to eradicate. We know that one part of the quadrangle, the fourfold way of removing sorrow from our life. First is to know what is the heya, what is to be eradicated, the future dukkha. Second thing is trying to find out what is the heya hetu, means what is the cause of that hetu. The association between the drishta, the seer, I who am seeing, I who am seeing the approach of dukkha. I am a wise man. I know burning. I know what is the heya. Say for example, there is a fire, there is a candle, or there is a flame. Now, heya, future dukkha is when you put your finger into the fire, or maybe the fire falls down, then it will cause the whole place to burn, and you will also get burnt, or the finger will get burnt. So that is heya. Heya hetu means the fire, the association between you, the drishta, and the heya, that is the seen, drishya. The cause of this is avidya. So ignorance. What is the relationship? You have to stay away from fire. That is the relationship. Don't play with fire. So that is heya hetu. The association of yourself. If you go and put your finger, if you use your willpower, or if you use your instinctive behavior to touch the fire, you will be burnt. And that is ignorance. So to know what causes dukkha is known as heya hetu. That is the second quadrangle, or second angle of the quadrangle. There are four angles. It is a quadrangle, the dukkha chaturvyuha. Chaturvyuha means the four traps. We are being every day, these are the four traps that are trapping us and forcing us to experience sorrow. So Buddha was wise, Patanjali was wise. They said, no, if we know what is going to trap us, we can avoid it. How? First by here, knowing what is the future dukkha. Then association between the drashta and the drishya, the seer and the seen. Because of avidya, we are associating with external behavior, external people. All you need is to separate your purusha, be a witness. Don't get affected, don't get emotional when things do not work the way you want it to be. So we have discussed this before with that old devotee who said, I have understood the essence of spirituality is not to think that things should happen this way or that way. When we expect that association, when that there is an association that I want this, I don't want this, so the I becomes prominent. That is ignorance. Through ignorance, we think if certain things happen, they are going to affect me. But if you remove the association between the seer, one who is experiencing, and the scene and the unpleasant scenes, it is like watching a movie. When you watch a movie, you disassociate yourself with it. You don't think you are part of that movie. You are not fighting a war. You are just watching a war. You are disassociating yourself with the movie. Movie is on the screen. Whatever bad or good happens, you are not concerned. You just enjoy it as a witness. But unfortunately, we can't do it when we are leading, we are associating ourselves with samsara, because we don't consider the samsara as a play. That is why we name the great prophets when their life is nothing but a divine play, because they understand it is a play. If we understand it is a play, then we are not affected by that. Just as we are not affected when we see something horrible on the screen, we know we are not part of that play, and then we disassociate ourselves. So no matter how much sorrow, how much joy, everything comes and goes on the screen, we are not bothered. So this association between myself and what I see, if you remove that, if you remove the ignorance that connects us, and we become miserable, we become instinctive, we become emotional, we become involved in everything. So in other words, the simple thing is minding your own business. What do you mean? You don't get emotionally connected with all the experiences outside. You should know how to detach yourself at will. That detachment is known as Heya Hetu. That is the cause of the dukkha. Heya means future dukkha, Hetu means the cause of the future dukkha. Then we come to the third, Hanam. Hana means to destroy, eradication of the dukkha. Now we know it with a connection. It is the avidya, ignorance, our foolishness that connects the two. Things which do not concern us, we get involved and we get disturbed, we get anxious, we get emotional, we get all the kleshas come to play. We have strong likes and dislikes. But if we disconnect, if we eradicate that avidya, which is the cause of the identification of the seer and the seen, the objective world and the subjective world, that is itself known as, in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, it is known as Kaivalya. Kaivalya means the uh, the eradication of the dukkha, of avidya, which causes dukkha. So eradication of dukkha by eradication of avidya is known as Kaivalya. So Kaivalya is a technical word like moksha. It is something similar to moksha but not moksha. So Kaivalya means just observing eradication of the dukkha by eradication of the avidya, the ignorance. That is known as, technically known as Kaivalya in the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. That is part of the Dukkha Chaturvyuha, which we will discuss. The sutra has not yet come, but there is a beautiful way Patanjali goes about how to deal with this quadrangle of dukkha. I am just giving you a background before we actually start discussing. Then the fourth angle, first angle is Heya, second is Heya Hetu. First angle is that which is to be eradicated, future dukkha. Heya Hetu is the cause of the dukkha, which is the association between the seer and the seen. Then it is Hanam, eradication of the dukkha. Because once we know that ignorance is causing problem, remove the ignorance. Don't wait there. That is the next step. And then finally we come to the Hanopaya. We know what is Hana, how to reach Kaivalya. Then Hanopaya means eradication of the dukkha by unbroken practice of Viveka Khyati. Viveka Khyati means cognition, some cognitive vritti, some japa, some mantra. We go on and on and on and hammering the idea of pure consciousness, pure Satchidananda. It is known as Viveka Khyati. Viveka Khyati means not just any vritti, that vritti which destroys the ignorance, unbroken practice. We know the vritti of the mantra. The vritti is caused by the constant repetition of the holy name, say Om or any other mantra with bija. They result in development of what is known as Viveka Khyati, and that exists in 7 stages. We will discuss this. We don't have to discuss all the things today, but just to know, for ordinary adhikaris, the Hanopaya means to removal of the dukkha by unbroken practice of Viveka Khyati, which does not come so easily. It is not as easy as said, okay, you just repeat the mantra and you will. No, even to repeat the mantra, you have to do it in 7 stages according to Patanjali. So all that Viveka Khyati, that discriminatory vritti, which will remove all the sorrow, remove all the dukkha, remove all the heya, hetu, everything cause, hanam, the eradication, everything will happen if we follow the 8 steps. 7 stages it happens, but the 8th step is samadhi. Now how? First is yama. Yama, as I told you, it's internal self-control. Niyama is external self-control, some kind of discipline. Internally you may be controlled, but you have to practice it in action. You have to do it in action. You have to use your willpower and say that, no, I will do this. Then comes asana, which is making the body steady. Before making the mind steady, we need asana. We need to make the body less restless. Mind comes much later. People are all bothered about the restlessness of the mind, but unfortunately, too much of instinctive activity, social activity, that has made our body unsteady. That is the idea of asanas and pranayama. Asanas mainly. Pranayama is to control the prana, but asanas control the annamaya kosha. So when young children, when the parents come, especially in the schools, they would ask the question, my boy cannot concentrate, my son cannot concentrate when he sits to read some subject. They want direct concentration, ekagrata, which is the fourth or fifth stage in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. But then I ask first, have you taught them to practice yama, some kind of mental self-control? Have you made them follow some good habits, which is niyama? Have you, third step is, I said, let them start with a very simple exercise. Sit as long as possible, even if you do nothing, without being restless, not by jumping about here and there. If you cannot manage to make the child sit quietly for physically, I'm not talking of mental, where mind is very much difficult to control compared to the body. It is jumping like a monkey. Even Arjuna, Sri Krishna tells, the mind is like, it is so difficult, it is so restless. So forget the mental control, which is essential for controlling the vrittis and getting some kind of concentration. Asana is important, not the asanas which give rise to good health. Here asana means sthiram sukham asanam, that is the definition. That which makes you steady, that which makes you less restless. Sometimes we do not understand how a steady posture or just sitting quietly, if we teach our children to do that and not being jumping about. You see how people, they want, many people want their children to learn mental control and develop some kind of concentration so that they can focus better on their studies. They don't have yoga as their goal. Most of the parents are not interested. Somehow they want good academic results, good study, good marks, and a good career. For that they want concentration, but are they prepared to pay the price for? The children cannot be forced into, their minds cannot be forced to concentrate. It will never happen, because Patanjali says you have to start from the first stage, you have to start from yama, and we don't have the patience to teach our children that, the younger people, and then we just want them to be focus their mind on the subject and get good marks. But it is not, even to get good marks, even to develop a good career, even for such a small worldly goal, you need concentration. Forget yoga and higher attainments, forget that. The removal of sorrow, dukkha, all those things come much later. When the blows of the world start coming, then only we think of this dukkha chaturvyuha. But even to survive in the world, to just have, as people normally want, we just want a wonderful career, we want a nice job, or maybe a successful profession, and that is all. That is the lowest, the highest goal most people have. But even for that, without yama, niyama, asana and pranayama and even pratyahara, these 5 steps are essential even for the most career oriented person also. We don't do it, so there is no question of meditation or mantra diksha or any kind of spiritual practice. Even you cannot conceive of that for a person who is not able to have a sthiram sukham asanam. All they have to do after practicing yama and niyama, of course, we will not go into that, we have discussed enough of that. Asana means sitting quietly in one place. It appears to be very simple, but see how children, how difficult it is. 100 times you have to remember them. Sit quietly, sit quietly. They'll be jumping about. Maybe because of rajas, maybe because of some kind of mental restlessness. But we have to control first in a gross way through asana. Force the mind. That is the advice we used to give to young children. When they said, they perhaps their parents thought that if they they are taught mental control, ekagrata or concentration, then they will do well in their career, they will do well in their life. So they come, and then I said, how could, normally in India, parents are very much worried about, there is so much intense competition that if you don't come in the top 10, it is difficult to get admission, and according to the parents, they can't even think of a successful career. They'll be struggling all their life. So there's so much of competition. They want some kind of focus, some kind of concentration. It's the same in all countries. The opportunities are different in different countries, but every parent wants that. But it comes at a cost. It does not come so easily. So we know for certain that especially young children, the preliminary training before even yama and niyama, we have to teach them internal control of the mind, internal control of all these impulses. Niyama is the physical control of the impulses, and then sitting quietly. After we train them to do, not to be excessively attached or run after raga and dvesha, after teaching them, then the body becomes a little steady. And then we have to train the children to sit, the aspirants. It can be a grown-up person also. We have to first train them to sit quietly for some time, even if it does not do anything, or the mind may be terribly restless, but at least physically you tell your children or tell whoever you want to train that you just sit here, practice physical stillness, then mental stillness or mental restlessness will go. Physical restlessness is because of lack of control of prana also, not just the body. So pranayama is the next fourth step. So for ordinary aspirants, asana and pranayama are intimately connected. What is pranayama? Controlling the restlessness of the breath and all the other pranas. The body can be peaceful, can be quiet if there is something wrong in the pranas, either because of wrong food, wrong digestion, wrong assimilation, or eating indiscriminately eating food, or starving, or eating more. Many reasons are there for the fluctuations in prana. And when the pranas, different five pranas, don't cooperate with the body, you may be doing good asanas or sitting quietly, but the prana will disturb you and disturb the body on one side and the mind on the other side. So pranayama is the fourth step. Then you come to pratyahara. Now, how can control of prana lead to control of mind? There is an intermediate step known as pratyahara. So what is that? Don't create more and more kleshas. Don't agitate the mind by minding others' business. Minding your own business, which is a very simple way of expressing it. I'm just expressing it in a very simple way. Minding your own business means not prati ahara, not allowing the mind to be distracted by too many things. Now we slowly come from control of the body. Hopefully, we have taught the child to be steady, sit quietly, at will. Not that you constantly tell, don't be restless, don't move here and there. We see many parents doing that. The restlessness, physical restlessness is very clearly seen. So with that kind of physical restlessness, the mind cannot be expected. So there's no point in even asking them to repeat certain mantras or do certain sadhana, yoga. That is not possible because the body has not been taught to become steady. Once the body becomes steady and the prana becomes steady, then pratyahara is possible. We go to the fifth step. Pratyahara is discussed, where the pratyahara means not allowing the already steadied mind. See, you have to remember that the mind is steady, the prana is more or less under control. It is not making you jump about like a monkey. If that condition comes, then you can start thinking, not forget about practicing japa or meditation. That is a far off thing. But you can even start thinking of doing pratyahara, which is one of the first steps towards control of mind. It is not control of mind. Control of mind comes with dharana or concentration, which is focusing on a particular object. But that is a far uh, unreachable goal for many people, because they are not adept in this pratyahara. Because first thing after making the body steady is to study the mind. To study the mind. And for studying the mind, you have to study the senses, the sense organs. You may be distracted. Distraction is very common in life. Every person is going towards ahara, means food. To understand this, it's a simple way of understanding what pratyahara means. Ahara means anything that you perceive is ahara. People consider that eating food is ahara. No, what you consume through the mouth is ahara, no doubt. But their ahara in yoga means many things. It can mean the food that you take through here. You hear a lot of music, pop music, disturbing music, the music that makes you restless. All those things are also taking ahara through the ear. Then there is ahara through the skin. You are fascinated by certain objects which you feel like touching again and again. So the skin also wants to touch smooth things, touch good things which gives you pleasure. That is the ahara you get through touch. Then you have the ahara that you get through smell. So you want fragrant things. You depend on that, and no doubt they are not bad in themselves. You are going to get all these perceptions when you live in this world. All these things will come to you. But how do you get influenced by that? That is more important. So going against that, not allowing the ahara to dominate you. Otherwise, you'll be jumping after good smell and good sights, and that again will make you the mind restless. So even that at a higher stage, of course, once you make the body and the prana steady, when some kind of basic human physical restlessness is stopped for a comparatively long period of time, then you can think of higher sadhana, just as what we do in mantra diksha or japa and all those things. So, but before that, even before beginning that, the first step is pratyahara, not allowing the mind to get agitated because the senses are going outward. So prati means against. Ahara means going out, you go in. The mind has a tendency to go out. Mind has a tendency to mind others' business, get involved in everything outside. For the time being, withdraw yourself, as Kathopanishad, the Yama is telling Nachiketa, some dhira, some bold person or some steady person who is already steady tries to focus within. Because Yama knows it is a very difficult task. Only people like Nachiketa who have already practiced Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, for him he is telling now the next step is to focus within. With the mind that is steady, with the mind that is not going out and getting distracted now and then, time and again it is getting distracted. You remove all the ignorance which makes you go out, go in, focus inside, and then do pratyahara. When you do pratyahara, then you can, as a next step, do dharana, and there are different kinds of mental transformations that happen due to that control. Control means sanyama. Sanyama means control. Dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, all three are known as samyama. They are discussed in the Vibhuti Pada, the third chapter. So all the yogic powers, success in the world, intellectual development, everything is depending on the sanyama. What is the object on which you do dharana? What is the object on which you do the next stage, seventh stage, that is dhyana. And what is the object on which you totally get lost? That is known as sanyama. All these dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, the higher spiritual practice of yoga, it is discussed in Vibhuti Pada, and they say, depending on the object you choose. If you choose dharana, dhyana, and samadhi in Sachidananda, or the ultimate Brahman within, who is known as also known as Sachidananda, then you will get the benefit of that sanyama. But if your sanyama is on money, wealth, you can even do that. Even as I told you, even to earn wealth, even to be successful, you do sanyama on. Patanjali says, I am telling you all these things. You do sanyama on anything you like, any damn thing you like, but you will get the corresponding benefit. You will not get samadhi, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi on gross object. If you do, the gross object will reveal its powers, reveal its secrets. You do sanyama on nuclear power, you will get all the knowledge associated with nuclear power, the peaceful uses, the explosion, and all those things. Scientists have done that. But unfortunately, they did sanyama on external things. You do sanyama on smell, you become an expert in creating different scents. You do sanyama on sight, you develop wonderful devices, telescope, microscope. So you extend extend the limit of your sight, your vision. You develop more and more things to see things farther away or minute things. All those things are a result of the sanyama on, that is dharana, dhyana, and samadhi in on sight. So you can do it using any of our sense organs, but it will give you only that knowledge of the universe. It will not give you complete knowledge. So through sanyama, all the lesser yogic powers, like the strong sense of smell, the strong sense of sight, strong, if you do sanyama on the mind, then you can read others' minds, thoughts. These are all yogic powers. Nothing very great. All you have to do is, after doing the first 5 steps, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, and pratyahara, you do dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. You follow these last 3 steps on any object. Depending on the object will be your achievement. So some people, as I said, the yogis meditated on lightness. They became light, they could walk on water. It's not impossible, because it's all the yogic powers are depending on the sanyama that you do. The more, if you can really do dhyana, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi on a particular topic, that topic will, the powers associated with that particular object will be revealed to you. And that is how you gain knowledge, that is how you gain expertise, that is how you become a genius. So all these great scientific discoveries, they were made when this dharana, dhyana, and samadhi were focused on certain things. They were so desperate to understand the secret behind all these wonderful things in nature. But because it was directed outside, they got external benefits. They did not reach, their avidya did not go. But if you do sanyama on your own self, trying to find what it is, the own self, the Sachidananda Brahman, then you get the joy within. That is also a miracle. That is the highest miracle. If you can do dharana, dhyana, and samadhi on the highest things in the universe, that is the Atman. If we have the wisdom to do that, then we will get the highest power, and that is the power of samadhi. So this, in a nutshell, will introduces us to the second chapter. And now we will, from the next class, discuss the sutras. Now I had to give this background against the backdrop of the first chapter, the Samadhi Pada and the Sadhana Pada. We do not know the reason why Samadhi Pada was discussed by Patanjali first. Logically, first you start for beginners and then you go for advanced students. But Patanjali has some reason. He starts with Samadhi Pada because he wants the students of yoga not to get caught in the lower things of yoga. He teaches as a scientist, he will show all the different steps and what you gain. The lesser benefits of yoga are taught in the second chapter, but he starts the first chapter by, which is known as Samadhi Pada, saying, forcing us to think that Samadhi is the goal. The highest benefit or the highest benefit of yoga is that you have to go beyond, you have to be one with the Purusha or Brahman or the Ishvara or the Satchidananda Brahma within. So if your goal is clear in the first chapter, then you come down, then you start from where you are, ascend the different steps. First, remove the restlessness of the body, then try to remove the restlessness. So that is what is expected before one takes up yoga or mantra yoga or japa yoga or diksha. All these things are different means. There are different steps. The fifth step, after pratyahara only one becomes really fit, a adhikari, to do japa. Otherwise, prematurely, if you take, the benefit of taking the mantra or practicing yoga will not accrue to a person, because he doesn't have steadiness of the body, steadiness of the prana, steadiness of uh, the attitudes yama and niyama. If the first four steps have been conveniently ignored, then no matter what kind of initiation you get, what kind of yoga you practice, you will not reach the goal at all. It will be wastage both on the side of the guru and the disciple. So because he is not yet prepared to understand what true yoga will lead to, what will it ultimately lead to. If that is not clear, then practice of yoga becomes just a kind of uh, external pursuit. Just as we do so many things as a hobby, we will perhaps do. We said we have done Patanjali's yoga, we have learned, we have heard, but when it comes to practice, Patanjali is very serious. He says, first you have to be adhikari. You cannot afford to miss even a single step, including stopping the restlessness of the body. Have you mastered the asana? Has your body become steady? Then prana, has the prana been brought under your control? Then, of course, when you do japa, when you do repetition, you can do yama, niyama and all those things simultaneously. But the importance of the first 5 steps till pratyahara is very clearly explained in sadhana pada. When you do that, then only you come to the higher spiritual practices. So let us see if there are some questions. Yeah, there are 2 questions. When one starts minding your own business, and in minding your own business, I just said in a very light way, minding our own business is not very easy. We are, they say, no, curiosity killed the cat. Our basic nature is to make our mind and body and everything restless. We are like a bull in the china shop, we cannot sit steady. So when one starts minding your own business and is beginning to be aware of any thoughts that is not their business, does this mean the virtues will stop forming? Why will virtues stop forming? Virtues will start enhancing. When you see, minding one's own business is not so simple as we think. When we focus on our virtues, when we are free from the burden of seeing others' faults, minding your business means not going about trying to correct anybody and everybody and seeing faults everywhere. That is why Holy Mother, in other words, she said, rather find your own faults. Don't see the whole, go on seeing, if you want peace of mind. See, if you want to reach the state of yoga, Holy Mother gives a wonderful advice. What she says is minding your own business. She says, don't go on seeing faults, because then you will not have time to develop virtues. Rather see your own faults and try to remove it. Remove the hanopaya, the 4 stages of dukkha. We ourselves are full of sorrow, Why add other sorrow to that? So the idea is that virtues will definitely will increase, they will multiply. In fact, you will get so much time to think about your own problems, your own business. Business means mental business. I'm not talking of the business as in earning money. When you are minding your own business means you are more concerned about your own faults, rather see your own faults, as Holy Mother says. When you see that, when you are op- occupied with that, then you don't have time to see others' faults. Others' faults with the intention of criticizing. But when somebody with a good intention, when the father or mother tries to see the faults of their children, it is for their good. It's not with the intention of criticizing so that they don't make the same mistake. That is not fault finding. Fault finding is that which gives you job. People do it as a pastime or a hobby. That is minding your own business. So virtues will definitely not stop forming. In fact, you will get more time for yama, niyama and pranayama, asana to remove the restlessness and developing your virtues. Next, it is easier, it seems, if divine music is practiced, then all the control needed, uh, yama can be achieved. Is that so? Not necessary. Divine music can help because it lessens the impact of our emotions. So that is why in the bhakti tradition, listening to divine music, but listening to divine music after knowing the meaning, we always sing mechanically Khandana Bhava Bandhana, these daily prayers. It helps us. If musically it is sung in a beautiful way, it will help us in a perfect timing, perfect tune, perfect swara. Music, good music, divine music helps, provided you know it is divine, you know the meaning of what you are singing. So the bhakti tradition emphasizes more on bhava than the external form of music. So Kirtana, Swami Vivekananda said, the ideal music is that which expresses something very noble, not just any music. There may be very good music with very ignoble or very vulgar thoughts. Music may be really good, but the effect is negative because it drags you down towards the gross. So control, the self-control that we need for yama and niyama can be had through music, but music is just a help. It is not everything. Of course, if you take it seriously and really sing, really follow the path of bhakti, then it can help a lot. Huge, it can be a great help. So, okay. So, the clarification for the first question is that the question was not virtues but vrittis. Anyway, vrittis also, minding your own business or not seeing others' faults will not only give you time, but it will give you time even for controlling the vrittis or practicing control of one's vrittis. Because when you find faults, you are having many external vrittis which really do not matter in your life. You are unnecessarily increasing the vrittis, thinking about this, thinking about that, as if you are responsible for the whole world. And when you do that, when you don't mind your own business, then your vrittis are far more difficult to control. So, as Jesus said, sufficient unto the day the evil thereof. We have enough problems for today, for a person. So we do not have to think of tomorrow's problems, tomorrow somebody else's problem, 100 people if we get involved. This is for a sadhaka. It is not meant for a realized soul or a person who is trying to help out others. Sri Ramakrishna always thought about the welfare of others. That is not prohibited. That is part of yama and niyama, sending good thoughts to everybody. That is, but negative thoughts can impact you. Finding faults can impact you, but sending good thoughts, definitely it will help in reducing the faults of other people and our own faults. So, okay. Uh, yes. If somebody else points your fault, should one take it to heart? If there is truth, it's not a question of taking it to heart. One has to be very detached. When somebody finds out your faults or points out your fault, one should be honest enough to accept it. He need not verbally accept it, but he has to give it a thought. So anybody says this is what I feel is wrong, one should not be emotionally attached to that. That ego should not be there. That who is he or who is she to tell me this? No, that is dangerous. You should not take it to heart. In the sense, you take it seriously, but do it in an unemotional way. Don't be angry or don't be upset because somebody points fault. That is what great people do. They accept. They that is why people are asked to confess. Confession, if it is properly used, it can help a lot. It can help solve a lot of psychological problems because it is our refusal to submit, to surrender our ego. We feel we are perfect, that we are what we are doing is nobody needs to advise us. That can be very bad. In that sense, you should not take it to heart. In the sense, accept it. Even if you are emotionally disturbed, listen to what they say. Examine. If it is true, then try to correct. If it is not true, then don't bother. In any case, you should not let it affect your emotions. That is dangerous. If it emotionally disturbs you, even if it is true, don't get emotionally disturbed, accept it. And as if somebody, they are not telling somebody, when you do japa, you actually take the ego out and you think this body and mind which you have is not your own. So somebody is criticizing, as Thakur used to say, this body, not, he used not say I or mine. He used to say this gets upset, this becomes happy, this means it is some object. So if you have an objective attitude towards yourself, then even if somebody points out certain faults which you have, then you should not be upset. That is the answer. Yeah. So I'll take leave now. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.